We need to have the spirit of Barnabas as a congregation. We can't be the kind of people who are so perfectionistic and so unforgiving of past immaturities and failures, or so nitpicky and critical that we only discourage young men, people who aren't willing to give them a chance to develop and to mature, or even to recognize it when they have. And that can happen sometimes. And I'm not saying that's a characteristic of our church. I don't think it is, but it has happened. I've seen it happen in churches. Especially, here's a guy perhaps that's actually grew up in the church. And we've all seen him all of these years, and we've seen all of the crazy, stupid things he did when he was a teenager, right? Or we've seen all these inconsistencies, but now he's grown up. He's a man. He's maturing. Those things aren't there to the same degree as they used to be, but the church can't get it out of their minds of, well, yeah, I remember when he was a teenager and he did such. And there's this spirit in the church where young men are not encouraged. They're not helped. And we can't see past their past failures to see what God's doing in their life now. Well, that's the opposite of the spirit of Barnabas. Or here perhaps we have a young man who expresses some aspirations for the ministry. Again, I haven't seen this in our church, but I have seen it in churches. Okay? He has a real zeal to serve Christ. It may seem that he may have some gifts. Admittedly, he has a lot of maturing to do yet. But instead of being encouraged, he immediately meets up with a kind of skeptical attitude in the church. Oh yeah, sure, we'll see about that. Well, I'm sorry, friend, you shouldn't even think about the ministry until you've been in this church for at least 10 years. Then maybe, though it's very doubtful, but then maybe there might be a slight possibility that your desire could be given some consideration. Oh, and if he's ever given a chance to preach one Sunday or to lead worship or to teach a Sunday school class, even though it's the first time he's ever done it, it better be great. Well, that's it. Sorry, you had your chance and you blew it. Now, of course, I'm exaggerating to make a point, and I'm thankful that this is not the spirit of our congregation. It's not. But we need to be aware that it doesn't become the spirit of our congregation in any degree. And I hope we get the point. Barnabas was a leader maker. No Barnabas, and there may have been no Paul. No Barnabas and John Mark may have ended up as a ministerial casualty working at a shoe factory in Jerusalem. So we consider this morning the man the church of Jerusalem sent up to Antioch to check things out. He was the right man for the job because he was an encourager. A man who was quick to see the good in others, to see the potential that is there, and quick to recognize where the grace of God was at work. We've seen him encouraging a new convert, encouraging a new church, encouraging a young, inexperienced teacher, and encouraging an unfaithful Christian worker. Well, as I bring all of this together, what does this example of the son of encouragement say to us who are here today? Well, very simply, let us learn from this the tremendous power and influence for the cause of Christ the simple ministry of encouragement can have. We owe a great debt to Barnabas. We owe a great debt to him for the Gospel of Mark. Also for his encouragement of the church at Antioch, which became the great church from which the mission to the Gentiles was launched. And therefore it was the mother church from which the gospel spread to Rome and eventually throughout the Western world. In a very real sense, one of the reasons you and I have the gospel today can be traced to Barnabas and his work of encouragement. And again, the same is true with reference to the tremendous influence of the ministry of Paul and the 13 epistles that he wrote that we have in our Bibles. Barnabas left behind no epistles. He was not a great preacher like Paul became. He was not nearly as gifted a theologian as Paul was. He left behind no gospel account like Mark did. Yet without Barnabas And the encouragement that he gave to both of these men, perhaps very little, if any, of all that great work they did would have ever happened. So I trust we see just how important the simple ministry of encouragement is, how powerful the ministry of encouragement can be. Do you make the conscious effort to be an encourager? Do you seek to be sensitive to when a brother or sister may be despondent and need a boost? And when you see that need, do you make efforts to come alongside them with a word or a deed of comfort or hope? Whatever best fits the situation. You know, the ministry of encouragement is something that's within the reach of all of us. You don't have to have great talents to be an encourager.